Good morning everyone, Gajan here for another video, and in this episode I'm going to talk about the Nikon Z50 and specifically 10 ways you can get up and running and have this set up for your hybrid shooting environment. Let's get this started. Welcome back everyone, and for this one I want to do something a little bit different and start catering content for those of you that may have picked up a new camera recently. The Nikon Z50 is a crop sensor mirrorless camera from Nikon, and it uses the same Z mount that they've ushered in with the Nikon Z6 and Z7. The Z50 has a lot going for it, whether it's photo or video. It's a very capable camera with a ton of features packed in. So for those of you that are graduating from a mobile device or maybe a beginner camera, this is something that's going to provide a lot of value. When I had my hands on, I was quite surprised on how much this can do. You really get to unlock the potential when you start to dive deep and customize the camera to your liking. So with this video, I want to walk through the 10 things you should do with your brand new Nikon Z50. The first thing I want to talk about is image quality. Go into your settings, go under image quality, and make sure you're shooting RAW plus JPEG. Now there's some arguments to be made to shoot RAW only. The reason I like to shoot JPEG as well is that it gives you a pretty good reference file. When you go into Nikon system and start to customize the profile, the sharpness, the contrast, the white balance, it gives you a great reference file that you can use when you're editing your RAW images. And sometimes you might just have a great image out of camera that you want to send over to your mobile device and share right away. Next is ISO sensitivity. Now, if I'm in a controlled environment, I'm going to keep this as low as possible, 400 or lower, depending on the camera that I'm using. But if you're in a dynamic environment, if it's street photography or travel photography, the auto ISO is fantastic. You can quickly meter your environment and use the appropriate ISO. That being said, I'd recommend you change your auto ISO range. This camera goes up to 51,200. That doesn't mean you have to go to 51,200. So with your camera, I'd recommend bringing it 2 or even 3 stops lower. With the Nikon Z50, I'd look at 12,800 or even 6,400 as the auto ISO range. This allows you to get great images, and even if it's a little bit noisy, it's not too garish, it's not too unappealing, and it's something that you can still work with. Next is white balance, and some of you may disagree with me and let me know in the comments if you do, but I just don't like auto white balance. I don't like that it's gonna fluctuate if cloud cover comes in or if I go from outdoor to indoor, depending on the lighting situation. What I would recommend is actively choosing your white balance before you start shooting, whichever environment you find yourself in. So with respect to white balance, get in the habit of moving it to a specific setting, such as daylight, shooting in that environment, and as you move into different settings, changing it as needed. What I like about the Nikon Z50 is that it has a separate video menu, so you can toggle between photo and video mode, and you can go into the video settings and customize your sub settings for video. So for this tip, I'd recommend going into your video settings and customizing it to the way that you shoot, so that with an easy switch, you know that your settings are geared for video production. The next tip I'm going to recommend is for your video recording, changing the picture profile to flat. More often than not, you're going to be editing your videos and processing them with your workflow, and shooting in a flat profile will just allow you to cater the visual look to your style and not box yourself in. It'll allow you to pull out the highlights and shadows to a direction that you're comfortable with. And while this may seem intimidating at first, it will bring you along a path where you get to cater your visual style with respect to your video production. Next up is the wind noise reduction, and this is a quick tip: turn it off. While this feature is geared toward cutting out any ambient noise and focusing on what's in front of the camera, more often than not it confuses the two, and you might get weird audio fluctuations from your audio capture. And while I'll always recommend using some sort of external audio capture tool such as a shotgun mic or a lav, sometimes you just want to capture ambient audio, and for that, I will say turn off the wind noise reduction and you'll be better off for it. Next tip is the user settings. On the Nikon Z50, you have user 1, user 2 settings on your mode dial, and there you get to customize specific settings for the type of shooting that you're going to do. Take your time, go into the sub-menus and customize it to where you're going to be shooting more often. If you do street photography and portrait photography, you can customize user 1 for street photography, where certain settings are geared toward that environment, and user 2 to settings that are geared toward the studio environment. This will speed up your process and get you to be more comfortable going between places, and also add a level of security as you move from environment to environment. Next is the My menu. One thing about Nikon I've been saying for a long time, they arguably have the best, simplest menu system in digital imaging. And with My menu, you get to customize it to your liking. What I'd recommend is after you set up your camera and got it to a place that you like, consider the settings you go often to. Consider the settings that you find yourself going in and tweaking most often. And from there, take that and add it to your My menu, so that when you go to your menu options, you get a quick glance of the most used settings that you use for your camera. Next, the custom function buttons. Under the custom settings menu and under controls, you can go ahead and customize the buttons on your camera and what they do. Once you've got acclimated to the type of shooting you're gonna be doing with this camera, customize these settings so you have a tool that works the way that you want it to. For example, you might change one of these buttons to your microphone settings if you find yourself capturing a lot of external audio. Another button might be geared toward white balance if you find yourself moving indoors and outdoors a lot. This is a great place to tweak this camera to the way that you shoot and really empower your shooting experience. And last up, your information menu. This is a quick way to get your camera to work the way you want it to. Again, under your custom setting menu and under controls, you can customize your information menu. This is the button that's just to the right of the camera where you hit it and it'll bring up a set of quick settings. Going in here and tweaking it to the way that you shoot, again, reclaim some time and get the most out of your camera. If you shoot a lot of off-camera flash, you might have your flash settings here. If you're always tweaking different types of focus, maybe you move between manual and continuous focus often, depending on the environment, you can add that here as well. This is about taking the time to create a menu that works the way that you want it to. As you start to navigate your camera and use it more and more, you'll start to find out the best settings that work for you and really take advantage of this to create the best and optimal shooting experience for the way that you create. And there you have it, 10 quick settings to customize your Nikon Z50 to get the most for your hybrid shooting environment. If you've enjoyed the video or if you want to see another camera featured in this series, let me know in the comments below. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications so you know when a new video comes out. My name's Gajan, and I'll see you guys next time.